Hello and welcome back to the Macca's Talk Hockey podcast where me and my brother and Dan, our good friend, talk about English ice hockey, specifically the NIHL. And Charlie, unfortunately, you are back in Swindon.
Yeah,
We are
it
gutted for you. But
didn't go
yeah,
so well, but yeah, we'll move on from that.
hopefully we'll get some good news in the future. But we all are back as a trio. We haven't got an interview, but we've got a special episode. I mentioned on the last one we were going to do our ultimate NIHL player from the 2021 season all the way up until last season. Obviously, we can't do this season because we haven't seen all the new players. But there's obviously going to be a lot of players who we've already watched play next season. And we're also going to have a little import goalie debate obviously with the re-signing or new signing of Max Wright. So that's a nice little lead in. We said we do a little debate, and I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate as well to ask a few questions, so we can get all kind of angles of the import goalie debate, British goalie debate in the National League, and then we'll end off with all those transfer news. All the new signings. There's been a few new signings, few couple shock signings. So yeah, we'll get into that. But we got to start off with, well, Dan, you all right? Sorry, forgot to ask.
Yeah, I'm doing all good, doing all good.
Nice one. So yeah, I've picked out a lot of categories. I think 14 different categories or 15 categories to make the ultimate National League player. We're going to go through category by category and say our player. You're only allowed to say a player once. You're not allowed to use him for more than one category. And as I repeated earlier, it can be in any of the National League seasons. So it could be an import who just play for 1 year, but you can pick him for this category on what we've seen. We haven't really conferred, so we don't know each other's picks. So we might get a few of the same ones. But we'll just go through the categories quickly. So speed, best skater, shooting, IQ, playmaking, physicality, leadership, most all-rounded player, skills slash the best hands, penalty shots, all-round defensive, fight, and then these are the funny ones: fighting, ratty, the best player at selling, doing celebrations, and the player who's got the most aura. So if you don't know what that is, they got that presence about them. They know they're good. And have got that aura. So we're going to go through category by category. Are you ready, lads?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Nice one. And you can play along at home. You can pause it, think of your um the player you put as for this category, or put it on your notes or write down, so it'll be fun to play along. So the first one, we're not really going to go in too many orders. We're just going to say them. Speed. Who wants to start with speed? No one volunteering?
I've got
I'll go.
Howler.
Charlie's got Howler. Okay, that's fair enough. Dan, who have you got?
Morgan Clark Pizzo.
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's a pretty good one. I've gone with Brandon Aliff. The amount of
Oh
breakaways
yeah,
he scored against Swindon, just one on ones, jumping in. So I've gone with Brandon Aliff. But yeah, Charlie's gone with Howlett. Dan's gone with Pisa. I didn't think of that one. That's a good little one. Rutkiss as well. Shout out to him. I think he won a quickest player competition for Swindon when he was at us. So yeah, that is our speed. Best skater. We will go in an order. Charlie, do you want to go first for this one? Best skater.
I gone for Malik. I just think he's kind of got everything when it comes to skating. When I take him to skating, I don't know. I find D-men are often better skaters in terms of all-roundedness than forwards, and I just think Malik can do it backwards, forwards, to the side. And he's my best skater.
Nice one. Dan, who have you got and why?
I've got Mac Howlett.
Okay, you
I,
didn't go for him for speed, did you?
nah. So yeah, I've sort of every season I always say that I love watching Howlett play and the way he uses his edges around the boards and sort of cuts in and uses his hands really well. So yeah, I've gone with Howlett.
Okay, I've gone with Sam Talbot. He's not necessarily the most quickest. I just think his all-round skating is so good. He used to dance around D-men in the National League. So I've gone with Sam Talbot. Shooting, I think we're gonna probably agree on this one. Might have different ones. Dan, we'll go to you first. Who have you got for shooting?
I've gone with Alex Roberts.
Oh, okay. Okay, I've not got Alex Roberts actually. Nice one, obviously at the Bison. Charlie, who have you got?
I got Kieran Brown.
Yeah, I've got Kieran Brown. No brainer.
Does
All
enough
time,
goals to be there.
Yeah, all types of goals. He'll score skill goals, one-on-one, slap shots, anything. I saw one on Instagram of someone who put it on their story the other day. He did like this Michigan, which wasn't even behind the net. He just picked up, span, and put it top corner. He is so, so skilled, probably the best shooter. Just a quick shout out as well. Alex Graham. Obviously, he was so, so talented, scored some ridiculous goals. The puck would just come off his stick. He didn't even have any backlift and it would go sniping into the top corner. So Alex Graham as well. Right, IQ then. I'll go first on this one. This could have gone to a certain someone, but I've chosen him not to be on this category. And instead, I've gone with another Swindon player, and that is Glenn Billing. I
Oh yeah.
just think all round IQ centre. He's not necessarily your most skillful kind of player, but he just knows where to be in front of the net. There's a reason why he gets all those scrappy goals, all those goals just inside the crease because he just knows where to be, and defensively he's so good as well. Charlie, over to you.
I went for Grant Cooper.
Oh, okay.
Um, I wanted to include him in this list because he's an absolute animal. And I just think, like, I don't know if I'd say his defensive IQ was unreal, but then he went to Belfast and played third line two-way role. But like offensive IQ was insane. And I just thought he was nutty. So I was like, him and a runner-up would have been Yanni Lakanen as well.
Yeah, definitely. At the age of 43. Dan, over to you.
I've gone for Malazinski.
Okay,
Um,
you've chosen to
yeah,
get him out of the way for
yeah, just
IQ.
get him out of the way.
Nah, it's a good pick. He's very, very clever hockey player. On to something a bit similar on the same lines is playmaking. Who is the best playmaker? Dan, we're going back to you.
I've gone with Urban Sobchak.
Oh, okay. Monster year last year. I haven't actually got sub chat. Charlie, who have you got?
Owen Sobchak.
Oh, you got Sobchak as well. I've
Yeah.
got I've got Matt Bissonnette. Not
I was
just
gonna put him.
not just last year, but the playmaking he had with Hewitt and Graham. That line was one of the best lines I've ever seen. So yeah, Sobchak as well. He was ridiculous last season. So yeah, that is playmaking. On to physicality. I'll go first with this one because there's a lot of different types of physicality. You obviously got the hitting who can hit really hard. Um, yeah, and then you've also got a different type of physicality. So the hitting type of physicality, I've gone with Thomas Canner. I think he hit like a truck. I know it wasn't in the National League, but when he played for Swindon in the EPL, he got so many bans because he kept hitting people straight through the boards. But obviously, he come back to MK and still was an absolute beast. But then on the other side, I've got Ricky Plant. He may have been like 40, 42 years old. He would just fend off defenders. They couldn't barge him. He was just such a mutant. Like he was so, so strong on the puck. So those are the two different types of physicality I've got. Dan, who have you got?
I've gone with Gail Lapuele.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I've
why
never
is that?
seen in the National League like era. I've never seen a guy that can hit like Gale.
Mm,
Um, I'm pretty sure he was half the reason why the boards in Basingstoke were even more sort of sinking on one side because of him.
yeah.
But yeah, I love Gale.
I think he was more physical at Basingstoke than Swindon, wasn't he? And
Yeah,
he obviously got a lot more penalty minutes at Basingstoke as
didn't get
well.
banned though. Didn't get
No,
a
he
ban.
didn't. Crazy. I don't know how he didn't. Charlie.
I gone for Gael Labole.
Oh, that's gone as well.
Animal, like as you said, kind of both types of physicality. He'll put you through the boards, he'll reverse hit you, or you just don't shove him off the puck. Like I just thought he was just a physical animal. And a shout out to Deck Barmer there as well. I think he's a physical beast as well.
Yeah, I agree. Right, on to leadership. Um, Quite a few different captains we could have gone for. Should I go first again with this one? I've gone with Jason Silverthorne in the early National League, obviously winning it with Telford. Was a captain for them years, and just him coming back this season at the age of 45 when they needed an import to play, coming back in, all of the Telford youngsters talk about how good Silverthorne was captaincy wise and leading the team. So I've gone Silverthorne. Dan, who have you got?
I've got Aaron Connolly.
Yeah,
Um,
standard. I knew you were gonna go for it.
through Basingstoke, through the treble winning years, he was always the leader. always seeing hype up the boys. And even when he was in Romford as well, like he was still showing his leadership there. And there's a reason why he's been a captain nearly everywhere he's been throughout his career. So
Yeah, nice one, Charlie.
I went for someone a bit different, a newer captain to the list. I went for Luke Ferrara. I think he's one of them captains who leads on the ice. I know he wasn't captain the year they won playoffs, but he took the pressure penalty and put it in. I just think he's one of them guys who will take every pressure moment, put the responsibility on his shoulders, and he's also one of them captains as well, where he literally just does bleed the team's badge. Like I'm sure he's had massive offers, but he would never go anywhere bar Phantoms. He just loves them.
Yeah, I agree. He leads by example with the points. Most all-rounded player. I think me and Charlie got the same. So we'll go down first.
I've gone with Matty Barron.
Oh, okay. I quite like that
Leeds.
one. Yeah.
Really good on the draw. He's always seems to be in the right position, always playing both ends of the ice, and he can really sort of orchestrate the offense. So yeah, I like Matty Barron.
He will be a big miss for Leeds. Charlie, who have you gone with?
Thomas Malazinski. Could have been in five of these, but I chose for the most important one, which for me is all round. Back and forth. I think that's the most important trait in a player.
Yeah, I've gone with Tom Ash. I think throughout his career with Swindon, he's shown different types of Malazinski. He obviously had the season where he scored ridiculous amount of goals. Then he got a season with ridiculous amount of assists, and then his defensive game just is crazy as well. I think he's so good. So yeah, he's the most all-rounded player, best player I've watched. Right, skills slash hands. I'm gonna start again with this one. He's the most skilled player I've seen in the national, Bailey Harewood. Yeah, just ridiculous. Yeah, he was straight away one of the first players I put on. Charlie.
I went for Alex Roberts.
Okay.
I think he had really underrated skill and hands. For a big guy, he's the type of guy who would just undress someone. I'm sure Dan can quote that more than I can, but I just thought whenever I watched Alex Roberts, he had these like wicked hands and skill. So I went for him.
Yep, nice one. Dan.
Every time me and Jack have watched the Bristol game as a neutral, we've always looked at each other every time, and it's got to be Harewood for me. The
It's a
way
good
he just
joke,
goes
isn't
coast to coast, and he'll just like go behind the net. There was one game he went behind the net, took the ice off his blade, and then just skated through the whole team.
it? He's oh, he's a beast. I could have had him for the next one, but I haven't. Penalty shots then. Charlie will go to you first for this one.
Just for one game this season, Johnny Corneal. I've never seen anything like it. I think he scored 4 or 5 penalties in one game. He seems to be always scoring them for Hull if they're ever in a shootout. I think he's just mental at penalties.
Yeah, he scored, I think, three against Swindon. Just ridiculous. Stan,
I had the exact same reason, same guy, Cornell, as Charlie had.
nice one. I've gone with a different player. If there was a penalty shot right now and I'm a coach, I'm picking Luke Ferrara every day of the week. The pressure penalty shots he takes as well. It's all good doing it in regular season, but he did it in the playoff group stage, to beat Leeds, and then he did it again against Leeds in the final to win it for Peterborough. So yeah, Luke Ferrara for me. I'd take put on penalty shots, and a shout out to Malazinski whenever he faces Gospel on a penalty shot as well. 5-0. Right, the final normal category before we get into the fun ones. I think we're all gonna have the same one by a landslide, and that is the best defensive player.
Ryan Wells.
Ryan Wells, Dan.
Yeah, right, Miles.
Thank you very much. Move on to the next one.
Right, so we've got four funny categories. Just to remind you, we've got fighting, the biggest rat, the best player with sellies, and then who's got the most aura as a player. So the first one is fighting. Dan, we'll go to you first.
I've gone with Archie Salisbury.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go on.
A young guy,
Elaborate.
but mate, he'll fight anyone, and most likely he'll win them. I always find it funny watching the GB game at the end when there was that line brawl when he took on about 3 guys. It's
His,
like next to
his
the next
first
guy.
thought was just to batter him. Charlie, who have you gone with?
One for Charlie Thompson.
Yes.
Absolute fighting icon of National League. I was gonna put Sam Bullas, but I don't think he's had a fight in the National
No.
League. It was EPL when he used to fight, and I thought, who better than Charlie Thompson, who will fight absolutely anyone on the ice, who will give it his all, and I don't know if he's won one, but I don't think that matters. It just said fighting, and it didn't say best fighter. It just said fighting, and when fighting comes to my head, Charlie Thompson is the man.
Yeah, I've gone with a bit of a cop out. Because he fought in the NHL. I've gone with Tim Wallace. He hasn't had many fights in the National League, but if he can fight Milan Lucic in the NHL, I think he could sweep anyone in the National League as well. Det Barmer as well and Gretton. I think those three
Yeah.
are the three guys who are the hardest in the league. Right, the biggest rat then. And I've picked this guy because I know he won't mind me saying it either. Didn't want to cause any controversy, so I'll start and I'll go with Liam Morris.
I
Uh,
came up with that title.
the amount of times he's wound up opposition imports, giving it a little bit extra after the whistle, just being a rat, always chirping. Liam Morris, and he owns it as well. He owns it. Charlie.
Well, I called him the Rat King when he came on the pod, and that is Liam Morris. I've got to put him. He is a rat, and he'll run your goalie just to wind you up. And so fair enough to him. I love the guy. What a man!
Wow, you didn't like him when he used to do it to Valash, but then
Right,
you
exactly. His
why.
ratness worked on me. So,
Dan.
I went with Lee Hayward.
oh,
Oh, that's a
good
good one.
shout.
An
He'll own
He's
it,
underrated
right?
um,
rat.
if you watch him in front of the net, the amount of he'll give a little spear, he'll give a little jab, a little slash across the back of the legs. He'll do anything, and every time there's a bit of hustle and bustle after the whistle, he's always the one that's going to go over there and just start something else. Like if something's just dying down, he'll go and start it and erupt it all over again.
Yeah, I agree. Chamberlain, I think back in the day, to
Yeah.
be fair, he lost at the end of last season. I think we saw just the rat in all of its form come out against
Once.
Bristol. But yeah, so but I think Morris for me. Right, who is the player who loves to selly the most, the best sellies? Shall I start? Because I've kind of got them as a duo. Because they kind of are quite similar. I've gone with Max Stewart slash Carter Hamill. They love to selly. I remember he didn't even score the overtime winner against Leeds at Coventry. He was hot. Carter Hamill heartbreak beach bench. I got it on video. What a little rat. But hey, he loves to selly. So I've got him and Max Stewart. So yeah, Charlie.
Aaron now. Ooh, baby.
Nelly
He knows
selly.
he's got one celly. If it's a big goal, he takes his foot off the ice. If he doesn't, fist bump. Um,
It's the same selly,
it's
but it's complete.
iconic. I don't care. It's nationally iconic. Aaron now, best celly in the league.
If you didn't know, we have this not funny joke, but he's literally done the same celly for his whole career. It's just the one arm fist pump to the crowd. But yeah, Dan, who have you gone with?
Aaron now could score the OT winner in the Stanley Cup and he'd still do the one arm. But I've gone with Max Stewart. The one thing that I remember from Max Stewart is when he was doing the art of just selling and Spada Four was just fighting in the crease.
Oh, it's so funny. I don't know why it's so funny, but he just went round doing his celly. And he looks back, he's like, "What? I'm meant to be selling here. Why is Spanish beating up Empress?" Right, the final category, we've gone a bit too far. It is aura. Who has the most
There's only
aura?
one person for this. If you haven't put him, you're wrong.
Okay, Charlie, who is it?
Alex Padalek.
Oh,
Definition. He is aura. Like Alex Padalek was 42 years old at Coventry. And he put on an absolute shit. He doesn't skate much, but he just pings it everywhere. Like and like even I've never seen someone to such a slow bench change in Coventry. It don't matter. It's Alex Padalek. That's what you want. That is
I like
aura.
that. Yeah, you want to play off on second line at 40, whatever it was, for Peterborough against Leeds. Just so casual. Dan, who have you got?
I've gone with Sean Norris.
Okay.
So obviously, like he's got little bits of his game where he's obviously got aura, like he sprays his
The
skates, like
burnt
little
out
things like
skate.
that. It's just not many people like it, but it's just aura. Like he knows what he can do, and he knows he can just skate around with these sprayed skates and just still trying to pull it off.
Okay, the guy I've got is one which you had for a different category. Gale. Gale had aura. He
Gale,
would bust his knee up. His knee would be done. He'd go
God
to the bench,
dance.
right, in between a little break and just do a little dance on his knee. And he's back out the next shift and he's going to smoke in someone. He never got injured, even though he must have hurt his knee so many times. But yeah, Gale just had that presence, man. He loved to Selly, all in one. So yeah, I've gone with Gale.
The best one was in Solway when he went off and he fully went off the bench. We were like, oh, he's going
Oh,
back to the locker room. And they just
yeah.
started dancing before he got to the locker room and then just came back.
Yeah, I know. He's got aura. So those are our categories. Got a little bit fun at the end there, but let us know on socials. We'll do a little social media post for these. Let us know what you think. And yeah, that is our ultimate National League kind of player with all the categories. Let's get into it then. So the announcement this morning was Max Wright to the Basingstoke Bison. And I think a lot of us saw this one coming. It was the logical kind of move for him after having a very good season in the National with the Bees to go over to the Bison like a lot of other Bees. And I know a lot of the like your ex Bees players who are now on Bison really wanted him to come as well, and they've chosen him. But this sparked a bit of debate on social media again about the import goalies. It always comes up every time a team signs one. Now, I'm going to ask Charlie and Dan a few questions about it, but firstly, Dan, were you surprised, obviously being a Basingstoke fan, getting that import netty? I know you said on socials that would have been the first guy you would have got, really, the import netminder.
Nah, I wasn't surprised. I think if you're in the situation that Basingstoke are, I think most teams would go for an import netty. I think, like a lot of people have said on social media, all the top Brit netminders have been picked up, and there's a reason for that because of the importance of having that import skater, which I totally understand. But if you're in a team like Basingstoke, you've had 2 years out, goalies that were growing have gone to other teams, and like I said, embedded into that team now. If you need a goalie, you're going to go with an import, and you need a guy that's going to be able to be that brick wall at the back and can rob you games like he did in Bees. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they went with the import netminder, and personally, I think that was the right choice to go with as well.
Yeah, Charlie, I think we all saw this one coming, but Max Wright to Basingstoke, obviously, as Dan said, there's not really any Brit netminders who've left their teams who were already starters to be able to come in and play that starter role for Basingstoke.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. It's a difficult spot. The league's getting better. More imports means you can afford to have one more likely as a goalie. You still have three outfield imports if you choose one in goal. And I just think it's a challenging focus where the top teams, often you'd predict with more money, have the best Brit netminders. So Gospels at Leeds, MK have got Headley, Swindon have got Rennie, and then Hull have got McLaughlin
Emo.
and Zamojra. And then you've also got Sheffield with probably the top British talent netminders with obviously Alex Oxlade, and then even like Solway with Jordan Marr. And then you're looking at the goalie core, and it is shallow. There's some names out there like Ethan James and stuff, and they can do starter roles, but he's a good goalie, but there was a big gap in Max Wright last year. Max Wright stood out as the best import netminder in the league. He had the best save percentage on the worst team. In out of the three import netminders, which is a tough stat to have. If you normally look at league tables, the top end netminders are all from the top teams. And they can steal you games. And at the end of the day, sometimes, yes, you may not get 80 points from an import forward, but you could get 15 league points, and that could be the difference between you getting playoffs or not. And so, import netminders for especially the bottom end teams, the teams in that bottom half of the league, it can be very important. And there's a reason teams are going for it, and it's because they are going to compete with the likes of Sam Gospel as the best goalie in the league, and there's not Brits who can do that.
Yeah, I agree. The league's getting better. You've got that extra import slot to go with it. Dan, obviously, we had three last year, with Bees, Bristol, and then Peterborough, who chose the import slot with just three. Sorry, the import netty with just three imports. It's gone up to four. Romford have now chosen to go with the import netminder, who looks really good as well. And obviously, if Bristol carry on, that will be an extra import netminder to the league. Why why are there not enough good Brit netminders to be able to play in the National League? Because why couldn't, for example, a Harrison Walker or an Ethan James or even like a Will Curlin go and start for a new team like Basingstoke? What would be your reasoning for that? And we're not in any way trying to disrespect those players, but what would be your reasoning for it?
Um, I think for a Curlin, um, obviously he's a good goalie. He can be a starter in this league. We've said that. Obviously, he was a starter for Bristol, then got picked up by MK. But going to money, like Charlie said, obviously MK are gonna be getting the best goalies, and they're gonna want that 1A, 1B tandem. And if Curling can get an agreement with obviously Tim and sort of talk about game time and
Sorry, your mic just went really loud for a second. I don't know
not
if you've
really.
got your AirPods connected. But no,
No,
carry on,
no,
carry on.
yeah. So if he can get like an agreement with Tim about game time and stuff, I think it's a no-brainer for Curlin to stick with a team like MK and compete for cups instead of going to a lower-end team and sort of have to be that main guy. I think it's all up to the goalie, really. It's up to the goalie if he wants to obviously push himself and sort of give him that chance to be a starter and really grow his game. But it's hard. Obviously, goalies once you have a goalie set in your team, it's hard to give up on them. And it's sort of if you lose one that's sort of a good goalie, you don't really want to go down a level in goalie to sort of wait for that like to come back up to what you had. So you sort of have to try and get a goalie there and then, and sort of a goalie that's at that skill level there and now. And I just think imports nowadays are going to be the way to go. And I just think these brick goalies are better to just be backups and then obviously grow their game through that instead of getting those starter roles. Because what people find is if they just go straight into being a starter and obviously not playing their best game, they're not going to grow their game at all because a goalie is a massive confidence game, like confidence off the ice. You need to take all of that into consideration as well. And throwing yourself right into the deep end as a goalie might not be as effective as throwing yourself into the deep end as a player.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Charlie, the question I'll ask you is obviously right now we've only got four, and we've got some really good Brit netminders who've secured themselves as starters. For example, though, what what happens when Gospel moves on? What happens when those goalies, Mar, Gospel, Day, Samostra, McLaughlin can't are not starters anymore, or they're just done. So five years from now, for example, let's say Gospel's done, he's retired and he's had a great career. That you'd think Leeds would go with an extra import netminder. Is it going to get to a point where you've got 75% of the teams who have got import netminders because that's the best way to go, because there's not enough of what we're saying, these British netminders who can be trusted with a starter role in the National League, as it's getting so much more competitive as well.
I think that's the challenge of the league getting better. We all want the National League to get better. The better the National League gets, the better the offense gets, especially at the moment. And it's a big load on goalies. We saw for the first time last year, Brad Day probably couldn't quite handle the 54 game workload. And I'm not saying that and any diss on Brad Day.
Oh
He's
no.
getting a bit older in his career and he's a cracking British netminder. But I do think with a lot of British netminders, you do need a duo now. And so you've seen with Telford, they brought in a Norton to support, and both of them were developed together. And I do think there are young British netminders out there. We've seen in GB under 20s, even Ben Clark Leach is starting to really grow in Swindon. I think you've got Alfie Blakely, Alfie Jeffries. Alfie seems to be a good name for British netminders. But it's a difficult one. My prediction in the next 5 years is there'll probably be more teams of import goalies than British goalies. And is that a sad reality? Yes. But my case study I'll give you is the guy we keep talking about is Sam Gospel. Did Sam Gospel come into the EPL, which was a five import league? This is a four import league, so a slightly better standard of league. We're getting closer, but it was definitely a better standard league. Did he come into that league and start?
No, yeah, there was an import netminder ahead of him.
So he came into the Telford Tigers in the 13-14 season, which I believe is around 19 years old. He had Thomas Murdy and Declan Ryan ahead of him in that season. He then had to push his way through the Telford system over the years. So his first season was 9 games, with an 8.86, which isn't good enough to be a starter in that league. I'm sure he'd admit that. The second season, he played 18 games and had a 9.13. The third season, he had 29 games. Then he had some loans throughout to the National One to get extra minutes, and then he went back down. He went to the Elite League and back up there. He then came down to the National One and played 10 games whilst backing up for Nottingham Panthers. And then he officially established himself as a true starter in the Leeds Knights days, the Leeds Chiefs days.
Chiefs, yeah.
Um, and so he had 2 seasons of starting an EPL with 29 and 26 games. He didn't start every game. Brits, the idea of a goalie playing 52 games was never a common reality in the EPL days. You'd have a Brit netminder and they would play games. Him and Thomas Murdy split games at Telford. But I do think it is an idea and it is a responsibility that I do think British netminders need to play. The rule I'm going to put out there, and I'm going to ask you guys, would you say that there could be a potential rule that a British netminder needs to start a minimum of 10 games in a National League season? For me, I would not be against that rule if you said in 2 years' time or one season time, you have to have a British netminder start your games and they have to at least play 30 minutes unless of an injury. Um,
Yeah.
and that's a rule I'd be interested to see come in because it pushes teams to play their backup. Because I can't. One thing which does worry me is an import playing 54 out of 54 games. But it also means that you can keep your import, but your Brit will get some ice time throughout the year.
It's an interesting one because I'm sure goalies, Brit goalies who are backups actually get promised. I'm not sure, I'm just guessing, get promised you'll get this certain amount of games. And maybe they might not get actually that certain amount by the end of the season, Dan. But I don't know. I think if you promise them, they have to. Like they have to, if it's a rule, teams will have to do it, and you have to look at the fixtures at the start of the season and go, okay, you're going to play this one. We've got maybe a 3 game weekend that weekend. You're playing at least one game there. It's a tough one though, Dan, because say it comes to the end of the season and you're in a two-horse race with trying to win the league and there's 5 games remaining and your backup still needs to play 2 games, but you want to play your starter because that's going to get you the league title, that's going to bring you more revenue, and that's going to give you a better chance at getting more bums on seats. So it's really tough, isn't it, Dan? But I don't mind that because it will force teams to actually play them, won't it?
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad rule. Personally, I wouldn't go for that rule. I would keep it how it is. I think you sign your team, you play your goalie however much you want to play it. A backup is a backup. They know their role in a team. So I think if they want to play, I think they need to show if
Sorry, your mic is just going
Just beat the
crazy. But carry
gulag,
on.
man.
I think if they want to play, they've got to show that they can play. And I think if that means that they have to take a bit of a drop down and go into another league and find their game and get eyes looking at them, then do that. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got to prove that they can be a starter at this level. I don't think they should have these sympathy like starts. Like obviously we're saying we're playing 10 games. Like you don't really want to start them, but you have to is to the rules. So you want to start them because they deserve the start. And I
Yeah.
think
I get
I
that.
think these Brit goalies should be they should be pushing themselves. And I think having these imports in the league, I think they should make import goalies a standard. I think that should be the standard that Brit goalies should be going up against. And I think it's a good competition. I think bringing these import goalies in is not only good for them, but also good for these fans that say they want a competitive league to watch. If you want a competitive league to watch, you need to have these top end netminders in, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're bringing in these import goalies, and they can make a game totally different to what it could be with a Brit. It's no offense to Brit goalies, but personally, I think import goalies are the way to go, and I think they're obviously most of them are better than most Brits that are sort of coming up.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the sound of it. It just sparks up now and again, like your voice gets really loud. No, I completely agree. I think when you look at it from a business point of view, this is not throwing shade on any Brit goalies, but you're going to win more games if you have your better goalie. Slava said it himself. He said the first thing you look at your team is, have you got a goalie who's going to be able to compete and help you be a part of winning trophies and winning games, because that's going to get more fans. If you're winning, more fans are going to come back and watch. And that's just, as a business, like, you're just doing better. So I get it from that point of view. It's just, I think obviously hockey in England, I still think there's a massive gap between, we've said it for years since we started the podcast, there's a massive gap between the forwards and the defensemen coming through. And naturally, because more people are wanting to be forwards, well, I can make that same argument. A lot more people aren't going to really want to be goalies if they're not seeing Brit goalies come in the league. And they're not seeing these examples. But obviously, we're looking ahead because we've still got a lot of great goalies. I think what was interesting with Mar, Charlie, I'm just going back to Rennie Mar. Mar got his opportunity in the National League because that was the first season where it went to the National One, wasn't it? So the standard did go down a little bit. Rennie Mar was only 20 years old and he got his opportunity through that. Are these Brit goalies who are coming through now going to get that opportunity in the National League, which is now a heavy, I guess, import league? It could possibly go up to 5 in a few years' time, back like the EPL. Will they be trusted?
But
Yes, they
Mark may
might
have
lose
had
it.
to come through as a backup if it was the
Yeah,
national now, and that's fine. You do have to take your states. You can't, as Dan said, and I do agree, and maybe I was wrong on that rule. I'm not sure.
oh no, no, no,
It's just
you're
something
not
to put
wrong.
out there, but I, you do have to earn your stripes. Just because you're a Brit and netminder doesn't mean you deserve your ice
I
time.
completely agree. Yeah,
You have to earn your stripes, and it's the same way. And I don't. Now we've got Hull with 4 import forwards. Oh, how unfair on Bruton! That's not fair. You
yeah,
should
yeah,
have a cap. You should have a cap of 3 import forwards. You could go down that route, or oh, MK have got 2 import D. How is Salisbury going to get on the ice? Cap the import D.
yeah.
Where do you stop it? And I know the netminder's the one position where they kind of take the majority of games, but it is an interesting point, and I do think you have to earn your stripes. And the National One, we'd hope, is continuing to develop, which it looks like it is. And if the National One is continuing to take steps forward, then that also does mean that goalies should be able to go down to the National One and develop their trade and
Yeah.
grow in the National One. I know Ben Clark Leach had a good year. I'm sure he's going to have another good year. And then in the future, Aaron may say, oh, we'll keep you on a two-way with the twos. Well, he's on a two-way now, I believe. And maybe this year he'll get his debut and he'll get an
Well, he got
opportunity.
a debut last year
Oh, he did get his debut
at
last
the
year. I
end of
wasn't
the
at
season.
that game, yeah.
Yeah.
But he may get a couple games this year or something like that, and then slowly you'll see his development. And then, but it's difficult. We're never going to get a perfect league. But if you're not 4 imports, and you're against import netminders, fair enough. But if you're 4 imports and you want import netminders, I just think they don't work both ways.
Yeah, I agree.
I do
It's
have
a
to dash though, guys. So
yeah, Charlie's got to go. Thank you for that. But yeah, that's our kind of little import discussion. We said we would have one, Dan. But it is interesting. I see both sides of it, but I just know how competitive the league is now. No disrespect to Harrison Walker, but he's had to go down a league, hasn't he, to get more game time, to be that starter role in the National One. And if he does do really well in there, maybe a team will take a punt on him in the National League and he'll earn it through that way. And then you got Norton as the backup for Telford. When Brad Day finishes, maybe Norton's ready to be that starter and he can then be the starter. So I really hope it goes that way. And I think when you say, Dan, that you think import goalies are the way forward in the national. You're not saying you don't want Brit goalies, but you're saying that like that's the way the league's going to develop. Is that what you're saying? Because you're still all for Brit goalies.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like brick goalies, but I mean, yeah, what I mean is if you're in a position where you need a goalie, I would say go down the import goalie route instead of taking obviously a not as skilled brick goaltender that's
Or
obviously
not
really young in
experienced.
really young in their career and go for an import goalie instead of doing that. I would prefer to see that as a fan as well as obviously my team as well. Obviously, I would prefer to see. Obviously, for a good example, you've got Harry Thomas. I really like Harry Thomas. He got some. He got a good chunk of game time with Bristol. With Napier had unfortunate, obviously injuries. He had a good chunk of games. He played against some big teams. He got lit up in most of them, but I would like to see Harry Thomas grow, and I think he could be a perfect backup to grow into a role of being a starter. I think he's what is he 16, 17 years old, like he's still really young, and I don't think he's ready to be a starting goalie. Like these are the guys that we're looking at right now. I know that you've got Ethan James out there looking for a team, but obviously if you're looking at young brick goalies coming up, you're looking at people like Harry Thomas, Max Van Mullen from Romford. You're looking at these young guys that personally I don't think they're ready to be a starter, and I think you have to go with these import goalies just to fill that gap until they can be sort of ready to go into the net. And I think import goalies fill that gap in perfectly, and I think they give every team a chance to win every night.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be interested to see how it works this season. See what Cole CC's save percentage is. If Bristol sign Napier back or whether they go with a new one, what they're like. I did see someone online say, "Well, it hasn't worked with the import netty because Bristol and Bees are still finished bottom." Well, I Dan, I think whether they went with a Brit import or an import goalie, they probably wouldn't have finished bottom anyways. I just don't think their squad as a whole was able to compete with the likes of those top eight who made the playoffs. And Max Wright, we saw, kind of stop Bees losing even more games. I do think if there had been a less experienced goalie in net, they would have had a few more losses on the board. But it is an interesting debate, and I can see kind of both sides from it. But again, I sway with that import goalies should be in the league, and I just hope that these young Brit goalies are able to develop. I think there's not enough development for Brit goalies, British players in general, Dan. I think that's the sad reality of it. But ice hockey's not one of the main sports. They're not able to train that like too much as compared to in other countries. So naturally, the imports is going to be many more of them because you've got thousands of them over in Canada and America, whereas you only have a select few Brit goalies who maybe are looking like they could be ready. So yeah, it is an interesting debate. We could go on about it for ages, but I thought we'd add it in this segment as we don't have an interview. Anything else to add, Dan, before we finish up on that one?
Yeah, I just want to just a little touch, just what you just said about obviously playing overseas and stuff. In America and Canada, you've got proper junior setups. You've got full like transitions into playing
It's
professional
juniors, not
hockey.
men's. Yeah.
You've got you in this league, you've got National Two, National One, and then you're straight into National. You haven't got there's not enough sort of transitions into being a start like just for a goalie.
Yeah.
There's not enough transitions just to go and into a starting role. Whereas in Canada and America, you've obviously got juniors and you go up
Prep.
into like it's yeah. There's so
Prep
many you got
school, QGEM, yeah,
yeah.
QJM, HL. You've got U Sports, which is uni. Like,
Like you look at the difference from elite league to national league first. Look at the difference between that. Like even if you're a starter in the national league, you're not going to be a starter in the elite league. And then you look at the difference from national one to national. It's unlikely you're going to be a starter in a national one and be a starter in a national because of the difference. The difference is too big. You have to come in, be a backup, gain your spot in a national that way instead of just coming straight in like people want it to be. But unfortunately, in the UK and the UK hockey system, you just can't do it because there's not enough transitions into the league.
yeah, I agree. It is a big step up for some of these young goalies, and actually, goalies is the hardest one to I think goalies is the hardest to develop as well. Naturally, even in the NHL, they don't really get selected in the high rounds of the draft because of how long it can take to develop them. So yeah, my cat's just trying to eat something, I think. I'll ask you a question though, Dan. On to the first sign in. There she is. She's spotted the chicken behind me. If you're not watching, and I've got some chicken. Oh no, she's coming down. But Dan, the first signing I've got, he was announced literally just after we finished the episode last week. Marcus Bradley. Brother of Ed Bradley, who obviously plays for Swindon, and Dan Bradley as well, who played for Bristol. He's just signed back with the Swindon Twos as well, which is good. But Marcus Bradley, he's going to be 18, I think, in October, was it? We said.
Yeah.
So he's still only 17 years old. He's been playing over. He's one of them who's been playing over in America. Obviously, Ed Bradley went over there and played as well, and we've seen how good he is offensively and being able to pick up points. How good of a skater he is. What's Marcus Bradley going to bring? Because I'll explain what I actually messaged Ed, what's he like, but I'll let you talk about it a bit first, obviously, as a Basingstoke fan.
Yeah, so obviously I'm very happy to see like a young up and coming D man come into Basingstoke. I like that we've got a guy that we could potentially grow and sort of grow him up into being a potential top four pair D man in Basingstoke. Especially considering we're starting back after 2 years away. We need to start getting those juniors back through, start building that proper core going, especially for the future.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that's obviously, like you said, he's gone away overseas to play, and the difference that he'll have learned from being over there is going to be a massive difference from when he was in the UK to start his career. So he's going to come back over with that experience under his belt. A thing that I said on social media is obviously you've got Jeff Flanagan there, who's obviously been assistant coach and head coach around obviously youth sports and that North American style hockey. And he's also been he's also been coaching young players and sort of building them up through college and the youth sports and stuff like that. So he's going to be able to sort of really have a nice one-to-one connection with Bradley because he'll sort of know what stages he's been going through and know what drills he's been going through over there. So he's going to be able to really be able to progress him well. And I feel they'll get a really good connection going. And I think Jeff could really be able to coach Bradley to the way he wants him to defend. But yeah, he looks like an exciting pickup. From what I've seen on socials and from when I've spoken to people, they said he's going to be a really confident puck moving D man.
Yeah.
He skates really well, which is obviously really nice to see in D. And nice to have a guy that can carry the puck and he's not afraid, especially at a young age. So yeah, I'm really excited to see him play in Basingstoke and see how he can grow.
Yeah, I messaged Ed. I said, "What's your brother like then? Is he going to be kind of similar to you?" And he actually says he's a little bit different. Obviously, he's a bit bigger. He said he's a bit more physical, bit more of a defensive kind of D man, likes to use his body a bit more. So he's got really good size considering he's only 17 years old. So he's got even more time to grow as well. So definitely going to be a part of this Basingstoke team, I think, for maybe next couple seasons, I'm just guessing, to kind of grow within the team. So yeah, exciting little signing for Basingstoke. I'm sure Jeff had a few links out there. Another defenseman, young defenseman, Ollie Turner, he's back. Had quite a not a tough end of the season, but obviously it wasn't a great playoffs for Sheffield. They were missing a lot of guys. Ollie had to step in quite a few big roles, didn't he, Dan? Which he hasn't been in his career before, which is a big learning curve for him. But he's still a young D man. He's going to be playing with obviously Morgs, who's come back as a full-time player, Kirk as well, who's 30 years old, so he's got a lot of experience around him, and he's only going to develop more and more. So he's back for the Sheffield Steel Dogs as one of their younger signings. I don't think he's on a two-way though, is he? I think he's just full-time Steel Dogs. The big one though, Dan, which we kind of predicted a couple weeks ago, was Jarvis Hunt was announced he wasn't returning to Peterborough. Well, he is signed for the MK Lightning, and that is a great little sign-in. He's got the experience in the National League, but he's still what you consider a younger player. Really good centre. He still wears the cage, I think maybe because of a job or something or studying, but yeah, he's just a smart centre who's going to fit well. I think he'll fit on that third line centre role, Dan. I think that's where you put him. Obviously, Wallace isn't going to be playing next season, we think, but I think he is full-time bench coach. McEwen's obviously gone. I think we know where he's going to end up. It just makes sense that he's the third line centre, I think.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's going to fit perfectly into that MK team. I think the way he plays, he can fit into most lines, and I think the way he can play, he'll fit into a team like MK. And MK have always been a team. They had their success last season because of their depth that they had. And obviously, we've said it on the podcast last week about they've gone with a different kind of depth this year. They've not gone with like full out goal scoring depth. They've gone with a bit of physicality on the bottom end, bit of playmaking, bit of obviously like clever IQ players as well. Obviously, you're missing Hamill off that third line. You're missing Tim off that third line. They've had to rejig their bottom end quite a bit, and I think bringing in Jarvis Hunt really brings in that he's a clever player. He's been playing in Peterborough for so long now. He's learned his trade in Peterborough, and obviously he's going to be bringing that into this MK team. And if Tim can just coach him and just tell him to be in the right spot, I think he can do the rest. I think Hunt is a great guy in front of the net. He's a great guy on the power play. Um, I it'll be tough to see him on the PP1 for MK, but potentially you
Yeah,
could see him jump into the second
yeah, possibly. Yeah.
second unit potentially. This depends on how he sort of evolves in that team. But I really like the signing from MK, and I think he's a player that will go under the radar but really do his job well.
Yeah, it's a new third line for MK. We assume maybe Lewis jumps on that line as well. He was announced a couple of weeks ago. Um, you've still got Rutkiss. Obviously you've got the field Grinnell Park who could step up to that line. So it'll be a different kind of bottom six for MK jumbled about. Someone who's making a return back to the Romford Raiders is Callum Burnett. We did think that obviously with Ralph leaving, um, they might need a D man, and they've signed Callum Burnett back, who's been playing in the National One the last few seasons. This reminds me, Dan, a bit of Tyler Nixon. Obviously, he went to the National One for a few seasons after playing National League, and now Callum Burnett's getting an opportunity to come back in the National. So, yeah, we'll see. For me, he's probably going to be that third pair defenseman.
Yeah, I mean he's been with Buckman and the Buccaneers last year.
He knows
So
him, yeah.
so he's going to know him from that, and he's a guy that's been around that Romford team for many years. He's a guy that's going to know the culture around that team. He's going to be able to sort of bring more to his game than he did the last time he was in Romford. Probably he's probably grown his game in different aspects. So I think he's going to come into this team. A lot of obviously having this new coach in Buckman, he needs to sort of build a team that he knows sort of who he can trust and who can perform. And there's obviously
Yeah.
a few guys in there that he's coached before, and Burnett being one of them. He knows what sort of scenarios he can put him in. He knows where not to sort of push him too hard. You don't want to throw him straight into the deep end. So I think it's a good move for Buckman because he knows his player, and it's a good move for Burnett because he knows what he's sort of going into with having Buckman as his coach.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see how he gets on next season. On to Leeds' import defenseman. And he actually played for the Bloomington Bison, Dan. So he could have
Yeah.
gone from one Bison to another, but he has gone to the Leeds Knights, and this is a great little signing by Ryan Aldridge. He's 6'1" defenseman from America. His name's Matt Studaka. So a pretty cool name as well. I think he's wearing the number 55 for the Leeds Knights. But he's played Dan in the NCAA for 5 seasons. And it's a very strong league, isn't it? I'd probably say maybe a little bit better than the U Sports. You get a few more Americans obviously in there, in that NCAA league because it's an American league. And he's not what you'd call an all-out point scoring defenseman, Dan, but I don't think Leeds necessarily need that. McMullen, you wouldn't say, was an all-out point scoring defenseman. He did his work on in the defense, making sure that he shut down those top guys, and then he added points when he needed to. And I think that's exactly what this guy's going to do as well. And when he went to the Italian 2 league, which might not be as good as some of those American leagues, he got points in that league. He got 10 goals. So he can score points, and we know the National League's a point scoring league. So I don't think we have to worry about that. But he's played in some top leagues, ECHL as well. He played nearly 40 games and got 9 points in that. And the one which stands out to me, he's got a positive plus minus. And a lot of players who play in top leagues who come into the National League, they might have seasons where they have quite a lot of minuses. And when he was playing in the ECHL, he had a +2 plus minus. He did have a season of a -9, but then he had a 4, a 6, a 5. So I just think he's going to be a solid defenseman, Dan, who's going to pick up the points. PK, he's 6'1". He looks like a bit of a beast. So it's just a great pickup from Aldridge.
Yeah, from the clips that obviously Leeds have put up, he looks like a very, very good skater.
Yeah,
He
he
looks
can
like he
hold that
uses,
point so
yeah,
well.
he can sort of he can jockey across the blue line to sort of hold the puck and wait for that perfect time to shoot. He seems like he's got a bit of a cannon on him as well, and a bit of a
Yeah,
one of those like masked shooters, the ones that don't look like they're gonna rip it, and then all of a sudden they just rip it,
bit
and
of a
it just
Brock
go,
shot, a Brock Bartholomew shot.
yeah, just sort of goes through the screen somehow. But yeah, he's another. It's Aldridge. He's perfect with his imports. He always seems to find the right ones, and he looks like another one that's going to fit into that decor. And obviously, you look at McMullen. It's hard to replace that, but I think Leeds have done a very, very good job in replacing what they needed to with losing McMullen. And I think this guy is going to be another top end import D, and I think he's going to perform at the highest standard that Leeds need in their team if they want to carry on competing. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun season for him, and I think he's going to really sort of show all his skill that he has done in all the leagues that he's played, and obviously NCAA, ECHL as well, and Italy
Yeah.
too.
I think he's gonna. His role is you look at those top players in the other team, you're shutting them down. Your main role, a bit like what Wellesley was told to do. Really, he added points. Obviously, you're gonna stick on not Kieran Brown because he's on his flipping team. You're gonna stick on, let's say, Jake Britnell for Bristol, and you're gonna shut him down and try and push him out the game. So I think that's gonna be his role. Great little signing. For Leeds Knights and by Ryan Aldridge. On to another import signing. We'll touch on him quickly. Actually, we'll literally just brush over it. Max Wright, we all saw it coming. That sparked our little import debate. We know what he's about. He had a 97.3 save percentage for a team who finished second from bottom. So he definitely is gonna, I think, have a much improved season with a better team in front of him as well. On to an interesting one, Dan. Jordan Spadafor's back. And I know a lot of MK fans are really happy with that. He's a fan's favorite at the Lightning. Now let's get into it from his point of view, our point of views from him last season. Now we were quite critical of him, obviously getting a lot of penalty minutes. You can't do that in the National League. That will cost you. That will cost you games. And there was a few games where he got sent off, got too many penalties, got baited into things which he didn't need to do in the National League. And then Forsberg come in, and that was a big turning point for him. Because he made that partnership with Forsberg, and they actually played quite well together. But I think anyone could play quite well with Forsberg, if I'm completely honest. But Wallace wouldn't sign him back if he didn't think Spadafor had a role in this team. The only thing I would say is I thought they played some really good hockey in the Coventry playoffs. In that final week against Sheffield, he didn't play and they got the 4 points. And then obviously in the semi-final against Leeds, he didn't play in the final as well. And I didn't come from that game and say, oh, they really needed a Spadafor in that. But he knows the league, Dan. Yeah. What do you think of the re-signing? I was surprised, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised they sort of brought him back. I think we've said it throughout last season. You don't need a D man like that in this league anymore. Like you don't really need a guy that can just sort of throw hits and sort of fight. You need to have your imports obviously having a bigger role on a team than that. I feel. I feel like you can get Brits that can do that. But like you said, obviously he's given Spada for another contract. I think personally, if it was me, I wouldn't have had Spadafor back. I think when Forsberg came in, you started seeing the fans sort of changing their mind a little bit on Spadafor because they saw what quality of an import D man they can get in Forsberg, and they were sort of like, "We've signed this guy. Why didn't we just sign him from the start and sort of gone and brushed past Spadafor?" Like it's just sort of you get that little opinion, and I think MK, obviously we know what they've got. Like they can get better than Spadafor, and even if they obviously have re-signed Forsberg, but even if they were able to get two, I think they could get two better ones in obviously having someone instead of Spadafor. Nothing against him, but I just don't think this is the right league for him. But
I think he would have been so good back in the EPL.
yeah, he
Um,
would have been. Or the
and
elite league. I think he'd do good in the elite league as well.
yeah, I agree. Actually, yeah,
When there's a
third
lot,
pair
obviously
defenseman.
yeah, we can look at him for skill and be like, oh yeah, no, he wouldn't make it in the elite league. But if you look at his all-round game of physicality and sort of being that guy,
He
he would
wouldn't
be
get
good in
called
the
for
elite
those
league
stuff, would
because
he?
you've got all those imports in that league. They know what style he plays. Like they've gone up against that probably their whole life. And there's so many D men like him, but in this league, he's just sort of a anomaly because the imports in this league do need to be spot on. And
It's
I
tough
think,
because I think he picked up like 35 points, and
yeah,
he's actually quite good at getting the puck and just passing it on to those forwards, and that worked quite well, especially when he was at home. I don't think the home games are ever really a problem for him. I actually thought he played quite well at home,
mm,
and it was those away games where sometimes they can get under his skin a little bit. My only reason I'm just quite surprised is they didn't he didn't play in the Coventry game where they won the trophy, and they've brought him back next year. Now I will get into onto one thing. Does this mean MK are going to sign 5 imports? I've got to say it because Spadafor was obviously rotated. MK had 4 imports last year. If you're counting Wallace, Lawrence, Forsberg, and Spadafor, they had 4, and that means that one was scratched when Lawrence come back every single game. So maybe Dan, they're going to sign 5 imports, and you've got that opportunity to play Spadafor in some games if that game kind of suits the way Spadafor plays, and you need that bigger guy to play with Forsberg. And then other games, maybe they've got another import to come in. This is just me guessing, but MK did it at the end of last season, so who's to say they're not going to do it this season?
yeah. I mean, I definitely wouldn't put it past MK to do that.
I think there'd
But
be a lot of backlash if they did, because
yeah,
it's still technically a semi-professional league, but
yeah.
I mean, there's no rule to say you can't.
But this is the thing that I don't get. Why do you sign a guy to scratch him? Like, there's
Yeah,
obviously not that sort of belief in him to be able to fit into this team when you go and sign him and then you just go and sign another guy. Like, if you re-sign a guy, there must be some purpose that he brings to that team. And if you're looking at him and you're saying, if you're looking at him on one night and you're like, right, you fit into this team, and then you go to the next weekend and you go to him, yeah, you're not going to fit in this game. Like, I just don't see how they can sort of
yeah,
look at
it's
that. Obviously, I
confusing.
know in the NHL, people get scratched. Like, in the NHL, it's fair enough. You get scratched players, but you're in the National League, a semi pro league, and you're looking at a guy and you're scratching him. Like, I don't, I think if you're going to sign players, they need to have a purpose for your team. And he clearly doesn't if he's being scratched. Otherwise, he'll be playing every game. Like, there are bits of his
Yeah,
game that I do like. Like we saw it in Romford away where he did play very very well and he
yeah,
picked up I
and he
think
didn't get
three
lured
points.
into those silly
Yeah,
things.
but and then there's just he can just go back on himself one game and then you go back to the start of what you originally said about Spadafor. It's like it's just so up and down with him. I just think you could get so much better than a Spadafor, for
Which
example.
is more suited to the national, because I think he has really good qualities, and I actually think he's probably one of the nicest guys. And I
Oh
think in
yeah,
the article, I think he's such a great guy to have in the locker room as well. Gets the fans going. Again, he's going to get bums on seats. He has the fights. I remember he had a fight with Bally, and the fans were loving it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I know it's quite split with him. But he's not a bad player. And I've seen worse imports in our league. Let's just put it that way. And what you got to trust Wallace. If you're an MK fan, you got to trust Wallace that he knows what he's doing and he's building this team together. And maybe they do go with 5 imports. We'll have to see. But yeah, we'll move on to the opposite side. Dylan Lawrence. Now, a few people were saying they were surprised that they let Dylan Lawrence go. And he's gone to the Phantoms. So Dylan Lawrence, who scored that overtime winner against Leeds, just something out of nothing, Dan, from centre, from face-off, sorry. He's gone to their rivals, the Phantoms. It is. I was saying to Charlie the other day, a lot of players go back and forth. Sign for MK and sign for Peterborough, considering they are rivals. You don't really see that too much, do you? But what a signing that is, I think, for Peterborough if he can stay fit and healthy for 90% of the season. If he can play 48, 50 games of the season, 2 seasons ago, he was a 2 point a game player. And he's a very skilled centre. We said we think Peterborough need to sign a centre to run that second line. You've obviously got that Huff, Ferrara, Lakanen top line. You've now got Lawrence to put on that centre on the second line if Tate chooses to go with that. The only thing I'll say is Lawrence was a guy who I thought liked the big ice. Peterborough's not that, is it? Peterborough's quite a different ice pad. But saying that, he did score quite a few against Peterborough in that rink. And he's played there a few times as a familiar face as well. So I love the sign in this. And you just know when he's playing against MK, obviously we don't know if he got released or whether he decided to go to Peterborough. But them MK games are going to be very good, aren't they?
Oh yeah. No, I do like the sign of Lawrence going to Peterborough. We were talking the other week about what sort of imports Tate likes to sign, and we were saying obviously he likes to have a shooter, and obviously Huff. He likes to have a setup man, and obviously he's got Lakanen, and then with this extra import slot, he's got a bit of choices to make. Like he can choose what sort of guy he wants, and the thing with Lawrence that he's gone with, he's a guy that can play both ends of the ice. He can give you offensive. He can give you offensive stats as well. He can boost your offense. He can also boost your face-off percentage. I've heard apparently
He's got
were
very good
something.
percentage.
Apparently Peterborough were struggling on the face-off
They
dot
were.
last year.
I don't think they had a player over 50%.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, I think, was close to 60%, which is massive for them.
So that's obviously going to boost that statistic as well. And I think Tate's going to like a guy like this. I think Tate's going to be able to coach this guy. He's going to just say, go both ends of the ice, just do your thing. He's a sort. Lawrence strikes out to me like a guy you don't really need to tell him what to do. Like he'll
Yeah,
just do it naturally.
yeah,
Like he can give moments like he did against Swindon 2 seasons ago when he just skates up, uses his quick hands, and then bang, just fires it in. Just a quick snapshot like that. Or, like I said, you've got the face off. You can win your face off in your own zone and start a breakout that way. Or you can sort of get those big goals like we saw in Coventry. He's a big game player. He was unreal in playoffs for MK.
yeah.
Really, really picked up the points in playoffs. So like, he was probably their best player through playoffs, I'd say, or one of them at least. So he's a guy that's going to fit well into Peterborough that obviously do like playing in playoffs as well. I think every part of this signing makes sense for Peterborough, and I think it's a top class signing for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for next season, man. I just want it to come around. Swindon has still got 3 flipping imports to sign to go with Malas. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Lawrence to MK, Lawrence from MK to Peterborough, very good signing, and that completes the Peterborough Phantoms import core. So they are complete with Levine, Huff, Lakanen, and Lawrence. Our final signing, and it literally came through as the notification when we start this podcast. Dylan Hare or Dylan Hare. Sorry, we still don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Hare, even though it's got 2 H's in, has signed for the whole Seahawks, Dan. And that opens up a D spot for Leeds. I don't know where they're going to fill that. We'll talk about that in a sec. Actually, we'll talk about that now. So they've obviously got Cooper, this import D man. They've got Bo Neely, Griffin, Bailey Perry. You'd think they signed maybe one more new D man to fit in that final sixth D man role, because Dylan Hare was I thought he improved every season, and he was a big guy, big shutdown guy for Leeds.
Yeah, and he's another guy that's been around there from the start. I don't think he played in the Chiefs days. I think he came the
No, his
first
brother
season.
did. His brother
Yeah,
played in it.
they were the first season of the. He was the first season of the
Oh,
Knights, but
sorry, they got Baldwin. They got Baldwin. So
yeah, I
they've
was gonna
got
say
Stu
Bolton.
Backer, Cooper, Griffin, Bonili, Perry, Baldwin. Sorry, yeah, there technically wasn't a spot for him then, or there'd be 7D. So, yeah, it's a good opportunity for him at
And
Hull. Just
they
carry on. Sorry.
they've also signed two young D men as well. Obviously, they're not going to be getting into the
Yeah,
Leeds Knights system straight away, but they're obviously playing in the twos. So maybe they thought we're going to have to sort of take one guy out to give these guys an opportunity if they did want to get called up throughout the season as well. And then you can have that seventh D man there as a young guy and sort of give him a few shifts and get him slowly build him up into the team. So having those two young guys signed on as well, I think maybe either Leeds sort of looked at it that way, or maybe if Dylan looked at it his way and sort of was like, I could get more ice time at a different club
bigger
and
role at
sort of
Hull.
more opportunity. And obviously, he's going to be playing with his brother as well, so
Yeah.
he's got that. But
Let's
yeah,
look. Let's look at Hull's decor then, because they've obviously got Davy Phillips. They're really relying on him to. I think we'll probably have our whole Seahawks special soon. They've pretty much signed most of their roster, haven't they? I think they may maybe have one or two D men to sign, but they've got obviously Davy Phillips, who Matty's going to be relying on this season to stay healthy and take that top role. And then you've got a lot of what I'd say second pair, third pair defensemen, in my opinion, in Hodgkinson, Spraggan, Stubley, Fugalis, and Dylan Hare. So be interesting to see the D pairs. Which one of those D is going to step up? Obviously, Hare is played a big role for Leeds. He was on second line for a bit. He went on to third line D for a bit. So you'd assume he steps up maybe on that second line. But so I think some of those D call, man, they got to step up with them choosing to go with those four imports.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And we said it last year that Hull need to look at their D, and obviously they've looked at it, but they've not signed that out and out guy that you know exactly where he's going to slot in. They are relying on a guy to sort of really improve their game and find that role in that team. And I don't mind that from Matty. I think people can say,
He's,
obviously I've said it
he's
myself,
changing it
like
up a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, people can say I've said it myself, like they need to go out and sign one of those deck bomber equivalents and stuff like that. But it's not always possible to do that. Sometimes you do have to just take a punt on guys and really just see what they can do. And I like the way that Matty's gone with it. He's gone with these guys that I feel if they're in the right scenario and they have the right season, they can do a role.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've taken Fugalis from a team from Leeds. He's been in that winning mentality locker room. Here, he's coming from that Leeds team. He's been in that winning mentality locker room. You've got guys there that have had the experience of being a winner. And I think it's only going to bode well for them coming into that whole team that do want to. They've got so close to competing for obviously trophies and stuff like that. They just need to be that next step above. And they've got that offense now, but they really need to focus on that D. And I think I like the way that Matty's gone with it. Even though it would be
Yeah.
nice if he did get like a deck bomber equivalent, which obviously I know is hard to do.
With the limited He-Men which are out there, it has to be said. Um, Fugalis, who I think still has a lot to give in terms of he didn't get too much ice time, and Dylan Hare, they're two solid National League signings. So we'll see how it works out. We'll let Matty talk about it when he comes on the podcast. But I think that's pretty much it, Dan, for signings. I don't think I've missed anyone out, have I?
Not that I
No,
can
I've
think
just
of.
gone through the National League and their reposts, so that's where I go. Oh, just to end actually, the fixtures they've been
Oh,
announced. We
oh,
we finally have the fixtures and the weekend starting the National League opening weekend on the 20th and 21st of September. And if we're just going onto the article, we can check the opening games of the season just to go through them while we're here to end. So on Saturday, we've got Swindon at home to Solway. So this is, I think Solway are going to be playing on the road for a bit, Dan, is what
yeah.
I've heard with their rink being done. And it makes sense them doing the Swindon Bristol double away game. I know they're doing a double away game in Hull for pre-season, so they've got a tough one against Swindon at the start of the season at the Link Centre. Milton Keynes against Bristol, so again, really tough one for Bristol to open the season away in Milton Keynes. Those are both league games, so not cup games. Basingstoke Romford, Dan, to start the season. That will be a cracker. Two Importnettis going at it. Two new coaches as well going at it. I'd say that's a really good starter game for the season for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we've always had battles with Romford in seasons
Yeah.
past, and we've had some unbelievable games that I can remember off the top of my head. We've had like the 3-0 comeback game, and we've had the 6-5 comeback game in overtime. So yeah, Romford and Basingstoke have always had history with putting on shows. Um, I just can't wait. Now the fixtures have come out, it's really like digging in that it's close, and obviously being able to get back into Basingstoke and be able to watch them. It feels weird seeing Basingstoke Bison on the fixture list.
Yeah, it
it,
is.
it feels weird, but the one thing I'm looking forward to is the Swindon Bison pre-season. That's what I'm
Yeah,
looking
we are
forward
playing.
to.
To be fair, I don't care if you win or lose those games. It's pre-season, but it's nice to win them. It is nice to win them. That first game in Basingstoke on the Friday night, it's
Oh,
it's gonna
Friday
be
night
sick.
hockey.
It's gonna be so good. And then to finish the Saturday, Sheffield Hull.
hmm
What a game! That is the game of the weekend for me. Two teams which not would you say hate each other? I'd say it. I think there was a big rivalry between them last season.
I think Hull hate Bristol more.
But yeah, Sheffield Hull, and that is a cup game as well. And then Leeds Telford. You got to feel for Telford here. They've got Leeds away,
Yeah, they've
MK
got a
at
tough
home on the
start.
first weekend. So that'll be some way to make a statement if
That's a
they
good
can get
test.
points
Yeah,
in them. So you
that's a good test.
got to look at it like that as well. And both of them are cup games. So
And
good luck, Telford.
also, if you want to look at it this way as well, early on in the season, some teams may not have gelled as quickly as others.
That's
If you want
true.
to, if you want to get on top of them, that's the perfect time to do it. You don't want to get into them after a few weekends.
Yeah.
Get the bang out on the first weekend, bang, get on top of them, get on their back, and really just give them a little shock to start the season off. So
No, that's
it
true.
could work in both ways for
The
Telford,
teams aren't at their best right at the start of the season. It takes a bit of time. That's the
unless
that's
you're
the
Romford
interesting
last
thing with
season
the
going
interesting
on.
thing with the cup because it's only the first 10 games, Dan, which you play against a team. So you got to be on your best from the start or try to. That's why I don't want to jinx it, but I'd rather play Hull at the start of the season when they're testing out this four import forwards than
Yeah.
play at the end of the season because Swindon have got Hull away. Bit pissed off, Dan, that Bison don't have an away game on the Sunday? Or are you going to be a little scout on that Sunday to have a look at some of the other
Yeah,
teams?
I'll definitely be at another game.
Well, the local one you've got is Bristol Solway at Bristol. That could be
Yeah.
a nice little game. Romford Sheffield as well. I don't know. Depending on what job I get next year, I'm still actively looking. Might have a couple interviews. I don't know if I'll get to as many away games this year, but I'm going to try and get to as many games we can. We're going to carry on with the podcast, but Dan's going to be the guy probably who's going to he's going to all the Basingstoke ones, so he can update us with that. And then finishing it with Peterborough Leeds. Peterborough's only game of the weekend is at home to Leeds, and we know how good those battles are. So really fun start to the season. I can't wait. We've got like 2 months. What are we? July, August, September. So we've got over 2 months to wait. My birthday's actually at the end of this month. So I'll be 23. But yeah, the final thing to note down is Coventry finals weekend will be on the 18th and 19th of April. I believe that's not the Easter weekend, Dan. I think it's a weekend earlier, I believe. When was
Yeah,
it
I'm not
last?
on without
Last
looking at the calendar. I've
I can't
but
remember. Maybe
it's
it is
nice having
Easter.
on the Easter weekend because you get the 2 bank holidays.
Yeah, that's true actually. For the Monday, yeah. But
Yeah.
that is pretty much everything. We hope you've enjoyed this episode all the way from our ultimate National League players to our goalie netminder import debates and all the news as well. Make sure to subscribe. Follow all our socials at Macca's Talk Hockey. We'll try and get a couple interviews. I thought this was the right one to not have one, but we'll try and get a player on, and we'll start the specials soon, I think, because teams are starting to fill their rosters. Even if there's a couple players maybe not signed, you might save like an MK till last because they drip feed it out, and Swindon haven't announced their 3 imports, and they're the ones you really want to talk about. But yeah, we'll let you know if we do some specials. We'll see you in the next one, whenever that will be. Peace. Oh, sorry, I'm still here. I've accidentally not clicked stop record. Peace again.